Was it self-defense or murder? Mother of four, Quaneesha Johnson, claims that self-defense is the reason that she shot her boyfriend, Demonte Smith, to death last November following a domestic dispute.
It still makes me feel the same way. I never wanted it to happen. I didn't intend for it to happen. I didn't mean for it to happen.
But in that moment, you felt like you had to defend yourself.
I did.
No further questions, Grandma.
Let me give y'all this scenario and y'all let me know in the comments how you feel about it. All right, let's say your significant other went out for the night, leaving you with 3 kids, and they tell you that they'll be back at a certain time. Then later on that night, around 5 or 6 a.m., they call and tell you they got into a fight at the club. Now, of course, you would have been a little worried about that, but let's say after that call, you never heard anything back from them, and when you did call, their phone was dead. Then around 9 a.m., they call and tell you their phone was dead and they were just in the club having fun. Now, I know how I would have felt, but y'all tell me in the comments how you would have handled this. In today's video, we'll see how one guy responded and the end results of him responding the way he did. What's up, family? I am the Mysterious Black Bandit. Welcome back to the #1 true crime / tragic events channel on YouTube. Before we get started, y'all already know what I need you to do. Go ahead, hit that like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any of these videos when I upload. Now, I usually try to get to the point in these videos, but this story, y'all gotta try to hear it through so you can give me your thoughts at the end. On the night of November 26, 2022, Quaneesha was at home studying for some kind of certification when one of her homegirls FaceTimed her to see if she wanted to get out the house for a while to go out clubbing for her birthday. Quaneesha, who had been at home with the kids all day and studying, decided, what the heck, I might as well get out and take a break from the family to hang out with a few of my besties. After putting on her club clothes, she speaks with her boyfriend, 29-year-old Demonte Smith, and lets him know, hey, I'm going out for a few hours with the girls. Are you cool with watching the kids for the night? So after he let her know it was cool, she met up with her girls and they headed to a club named Zuri. Once they got inside, they went straight to the bar, grabbed some drinks, and hit the dance floor. But by 2 a.m., the club started to die down a little bit. So since it was one of her friend's birthday, they decided, hey, the night is young, it's my girl's birthday, let's hit up another club to see if anything's going on there. So they arrived at this other club called Taste, and about an hour or so in, with that good Casamigos flowing through their system, Quaneesha and her friends ended up getting into an altercation with some other females they felt was trying to disrespect them. Once the security broke up the fight, Quaneesha goes into a quiet room and calls Demonte to let him know what had happened. Demonte, who was very sincere, asked her if everything was all right and told her to share her location so he could make sure if anything else happened, he would know where to come. Now, after this incident, Demonte was expecting Quaneesha to come on home, plus it was 6 a.m. in the morning, so when she didn't return, he started to blow her phone up. Of course, in his mind, he felt that something may have happened to her when she left because she had just told him they were in a physical altercation with some other people at the club. Now, after her phone kept going to the voicemail several times, Demonte begins calling some of her family members to see if they had heard from her or knew where she was. But when they told them they haven't, they began calling around to all the local hospitals and jails in hope of locating her. Meanwhile, Quaneesha was allegedly at a whole nother club, and while she was there, her phone had went dead, and I guess she didn't notice until they were getting ready to leave. Now, around 9 a.m. the next day, Quaneesha finally makes it to her car to put her phone in the charger, and as soon as it turned back on, she saw a barrage of text messages from Demonte and her family members. She immediately calls her aunts first to let them know that she was okay, but while she was on the phone talking to them, they added Demonte into the conversation. Demonte, who was worried sick about her, became very angry and started questioning her on her whereabouts, and Quaneesha was like, you know where I've been, I sent you the location and everything. Demonte, who had been at home all night worrying about her with the kids, was still 38 hot because he felt she was lying the whole time. So before he hung up that phone, Demonte tells her he was going to put the hands on her when she got home. Now, all this was said while her family members were on the phone, so they told her she doesn't need to go home just yet. But Quaneesha told them not to worry about it because she was going to have the police escort her to the house to make sure nothing goes down. So before leaving her destination, Quaneesha calls the police department to let them know she was afraid to go home because she received verbal threats from her boyfriend and requested them to escort her to her home on Edenberry Lane in Lithonia, Georgia. About 2 hours later, Quaneesha returns home and the police meets her there. The officer asked her if she had a weapon on her or were there any weapons in the house. Now at the time, she did have a firearm on her, but the officer told her to leave it in the car before she went inside. Once she placed the gun in the car, they both walked to the door and the police had Demonte come outside so they could talk. But as soon as he seen Quaneesha, they both began yelling and cursing at one another. The police tried to intervene to try to relax the situation, but Quaneesha continued to talk over them and was combative with them the whole time. Now, while still arguing, instead of the police keeping them separate, they sent both Quaneesha and Demonte inside the house to calm down. Now, right before walking inside, allegedly, Demonte whispered to Quaneesha and told her, as soon as the police leave, I'm still gonna put these hands on you. This is when she asked the officer what would happen if I shot Demonte in self-defense. She stated she already looked up the self-defense laws and if he touches her, she was going to kill him. I guess the officer didn't take the threat serious and made a comment, then walked back to their car, but remained on the scene to give them a few minutes to cool off before trying to mediate again. Now, as Quaneesha and Demonte were walking back inside, one of the dogs had ran out, and as she went to go get them, she stopped by the car and grabbed a metal tire rod and her gun, then went back inside the house. Once she got back inside, she began to walk upstairs when, allegedly, Demonte tells her again that he was going to beat her up when the police leave. Quaneesha tells him that if you touch me, I'm gonna hit you in the head with this tire rod. Then proceeded to walk upstairs and directed one of her children to call 911 and say that Demonte had hit her. Now, while the child was on the phone with the authorities, allegedly, Demonte had lunged at Quaneesha, so she pulls out that rod and hits him in the head with it, then shot him. While everything was going down, the dispatcher who was on the phone could hear the gunshot, as well as Quaneesha repeatedly saying, "Bye" to Demonte. Almost immediately after he was shot, he stumbles outside to find the police officer and told them, "She hit me in the head with that metal thing, then shot me. Heard before I die." Then he collapsed on the ground. Seconds later, Quaneesha walks outside and admitted to what she had did and told them, "I told y'all he was going to do it." Demonte, who had been shot in the chest, was rushed to a nearby hospital where he later died, and Quaneesha was handcuffed and taken to jail shortly after. Now, during Quaneesha's trial, she pleaded not guilty to the murder charge and claimed that it was all self-defense. After telling the jury her side of the story of what happened on November 27th, she testified that just 2 weeks ago before the incident, Demonte had acted on his verbal threats. She stated earlier that month, Demonte had slammed her on her face after an argument, and that was a reason for actually shooting him. Apparently, he had threatened to put hands on her several times, and he had previously been prosecuted for aggravated stalking, battery, and domestic violence. Now, although Quaneesha was claiming self-defense, the prosecutors felt that she was the primary aggressor and this was a planned murder. On that day, Demonte was actually trying to leave the house. The investigators discovered that he had requested a rideshare or Uber to come pick him up, but was shot and killed minutes before it was scheduled to arrive. Not only that, Quaneesha admitted to the investigators that Demonte never put his hands on her on that day, but she had her daughter call the police and tell them that he hit her. Now, Demonte's only child with Quaneesha was the youngest daughter, and of course the other two had different fathers. So when she first arrived to the door with the police, he came to the door holding that child, and during the argument, Quaneesha tells him to give her the child, and when he refused, she goes on this rant. I'm gonna let y'all listen to it.
And then I want you all to pay attention to the body camera, because she repeatedly antagonizes Demonte when Demonte comes outside. And she fearlessly approaches Demonte and tries to grab the kid. And then, not only that, the entire time, y'all get to hear she says things like, "That's not even your kid. You're not even on the birth certificate. I'm gonna disappear again for 3 hours. What are you gonna do then?
Now, Quaneesha was facing 7 different charges that included malice murder, but after nearly 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a mixed verdict, finding Quaneesha Johnson not guilty of murder, but guilty of other charges that included voluntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, and cruelty to for the shooting that killed Demonte Smith.
They called me and told me, "Ma'am, do you know a Demonte Smith?" And my heart dropped. I had to describe my son to this woman, to this man. And I knew at that moment that he was gone. And I got to work, and the medical examiner called, and I couldn't get it together. I blacked out. And then the detective called me, and my first words was, "Where is she?" They said, "Who? Where is the woman that killed my son?" Because I knew it was you. A darkness dwelled inside of you.
Now, with this verdict, the state, who never saw Quaneesha as a victim of domestic violence, wanted her locked up right away for years, but the judge felt that they failed to protect her, even though she saw police protection time and time again. After hitting Demonte with a metal tire iron and fatally shooting him while multiple police officers were right in front of their home, the DeKalb County Superior Court judge sentenced Quaneesha Nicole Johnson to 10 years confinement, split between 5 years in prison and 5 more years under house arrest, with an additional 10 years on probation. The judge stated she believed that on the day of that incident, Quaneesha took all the necessary steps when she called the alarm company and the local law enforcement 3 different times to ensure her safety after Demonte had threatened to inflict bodily harm on her. She continued and said it didn't matter how long Miss Johnson stayed out or who her kids were left with, it didn't constitute somebody threatening you with serious bodily injuries. Now, although the state requested that Quaneesha be taken into custody immediately after being found guilty, Quaneesha didn't have to begin her sentence because the judge granted her an appeal bond over the state's objection. So this means while her attorney was appealing the conviction, she was placed on house arrest. So, what do y'all think about this one? After reading this story and actually putting myself in this guy's situation, although I wouldn't have threatened her or put my hands on her, I can definitely see why he was so pissed off. Now, you just told me you got into a fight at the club, so I'm already worried. Then, when I call you, your phone is dead? I don't know about y'all, but I feel like it was super inconsiderate of her to let her phone die and not even attempt to call or text from her homegirl's phones to let them know something. Y'all make sure to let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Do y'all think that she should have been charged with murder, or was this actually self-defense? Thank y'all so much for watching. Remember, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and turn that notification bell on. I hope y'all had a wonderful, wonderful day. Stay prosperous, and until next time, stay mysterious, my friends.